What's going on, everybody? Picture this. We're still in vacation mode, still on the road, still hopping from city to city, but the Celtics never sleep, and neither do the storylines. Last time we were checking in from Paris. Now it's Amsterdam's turn, and even though the scenery's changed, the conversation has shifted to something that might define the next chapter of Boston basketball. The man who was supposed to help bridge the gap between the old guard and the new ownership is gone. Wyc Grousbeck has officially been moved out of the driver's seat. And honestly, if you've been paying attention, this was almost inevitable from start. When billionaire Bill Chisholm put down nearly $7 billion to buy the Celtics, the original plan looked neat on paper. Wyc would stick around for 3 years, show the ropes, keep the transition smooth, and then gradually hand over the keys. Sounds respectful, right? Sounds cooperative. But think about it. You spend $7 billion on one of the most iconic franchises in sports history, and then you just let someone else run it? No way. It's human nature to want your own fingerprints on every decision, especially when you've made that kind of investment. This was always going to happen. It's almost a carbon copy of what happened with Mark Cuban in Dallas. Cuban sold his shares of the Mavericks, and part of the deal said he'd still be heavily involved, still making basketball decisions. Not even a year later, he's practically an outsider looking in. Sure, he's still tweeting like he's in charge, but the big moves? Those happened without his fingerprints, and it left him blindsided, especially after the Luka Doncic trade shook the entire foundation. The Boston situation just feels like déjà vu, and the signs were already flashing. The Celtics started making financial moves that didn't exactly scream, Wyc is still calling the shots. They've been slicing that bloated payroll, which last year pushed past $500 million between salary and luxury tax. That number is now chopped in half. They're flirting with getting under the first apron, maybe even out of the luxury tax entirely. That's not a move you make if you're still playing by the old ownership's win now, spend at all cost strategy. It's a signal. A new era is here, and the first order of business is fiscal flexibility. Now, there's another layer to this, and it's the Jason Tatum injury. Calling an Achilles tear to an MVP-caliber player a gift sounds cruel, but in the cold logic of front office strategy, it gives the new brass an excuse to hit pause. If you're stepping into a franchise with the goal of reshaping the roster and avoiding monster spending in the short term, an injury to your best player is a ready-made reason to take a gap year. You can say, look, we'd love to go all in, but without Tatum at full strength, it doesn't make sense. And in the meantime, you shed salary, keep flexibility, and set your sights on the summer of 2026, 2027, when Tatum's healthy and you're ready to strike. That's the grace period they've been handed. One season where the fan base can accept that the team isn't going for Banner 18. A year where you can frame the narrative as evaluating the young guys, figuring out what we've got, and targeting next year. But here's the reality. When next offseason comes, the excuses are gone. The second that 27 free agency window opens, Boston has to show its hand. Are they going to attack the market with the same aggression as before? Or are we looking at a cautious, conservative Celtics front office for the next era? The old group operated in a completely different environment. They didn't have to sweat the second apron restrictions when they were handing out big deals. They could sign players knowing in the back of their minds they weren't going to be footing the bill for all those contracts in the long term. That's not the case now. This ownership group will feel every dollar and every tax hit, and that changes how you build. And so, as much as this feels like an organizational reset, it's also a test. How do they talk about these moves publicly? Do they openly admit they're in a bridge year, or do they try to massage the message, telling the fan base, don't worry, when Tatum's back, we're ready to go? How transparent will they be? That's going to set the tone for how fans interpret everything from now until next summer. For now, Boston is officially in the early stages of something new. I'm not calling it a full rebuild, but I think it's fair to say we're in a transition. The same kind of transition that can either lay the groundwork for a championship run in a couple of years or spiral into a cycle of mediocrity. The Dallas Mavericks situation is the cautionary tale. A team that thought they could play the middle ground but ended up making one of the most shocking trades in league history, shipping out Luka Doncic. Boston doesn't want to get anywhere near that cliff. And while all this is happening in the boardroom and the front office, the conversations on the court keep coming back to Tatum. It's funny. In the last few years, Tatum has gone from young phenom to superstar to, somehow, a guy people are now calling not clutch. Some of that comes from his shot selection. He loves that sidestep three, and when it's not falling, it can look ugly. But part of it's also the Celtics' late-game habits. For years, Boston had a reputation for getting tight in crunch time, dribbling the clock down, settling for contested threes, hoping for a miracle. In 2022, it bit them hard against Golden State in the finals. Fast forward to the 2024 championship run, and it looked like they'd broken the curse. The ball moved faster. They still bombed away from deep, but the shots came in rhythm. They didn't face a juggernaut in the East that year, but even in the finals against Luka and Kyrie, they looked composed. That's why last year's regression, especially in the Knicks series, rattled so many fans. Blowing two separate 20-point leads at home in Games 1 and 2 brought back all the bad memories. But here's where I push back on the Tatum's not clutch crowd. Go back to that Sixers series a couple years ago. Boston's down 3-2, facing elimination on the road. They storm back to win Game 6. Then in Game 7, Tatum drops 50 points. 50. You can't just erase that because you don't like a couple of sidestep threes. The same postseason, he goes toe-to-toe with Giannis in Milwaukee, putting up 44 in a must-win Game 6. That's not a guy who shrinks in big moments. Sure, the clutch metrics might favor guys like Jalen Brunson, De'Aaron Fox, or DeMar DeRozan in certain seasons. But if we're being real, are you taking any of those guys over Tatum in a playoff series? Probably not. Sometimes numbers miss the bigger picture. Still, the criticism isn't totally unfair. The Celtics as a team can fall into the same old traps, waiting too long to initiate offense, leaning too hard on threes, and letting leads slip. That's on everyone, from the coach to the stars to the role players. Leadership sets the tone, and yes, Tatum plays a big role there. But pinning the whole thing on him ignores the fact that it's a team-wide habit. So with all of that swirling in the background, you'd think the Celtics front office would want to keep things as calm and quiet as possible. But nope, we've already got trade rumors floating around. And some of them are the kind that make you stop mid-scroll and just stare at the screen like, wait, what? One of the more head-scratching ones that's been making the rounds is this idea of swapping Sam Hauser for Gabe Vincent. And I've got to be honest, for the Lakers, that's a dream scenario. For Boston, it feels like one of those trades you instantly regret the second you see the press release go out. Here's the thing about Hauser. People love to underestimate him. Sure, he's not locking up all NBA wings on a nightly basis, but he's a career 40% plus three-point shooter. That's elite in today's NBA, and he's not some turnstile on defense. He's not a lockdown guy, but he's smart, he positions himself well, and he competes. The stereotype is obvious, a lanky white shooter who you assume can't guard anyone. But when you actually watch the tape, he holds his ground more often than he gets cooked. And on a team that still thrives on spacing and perimeter shooting, Hauser's value is bigger than it looks in a box score. Gabe Vincent, meanwhile, is a classic case of a player whose stock was inflated by a perfect system. In Miami, under Eric Spoelstra, he became a tough, gritty two-way guard who could hit shots, pressure the ball, and fit seamlessly into their culture. But the thing about Heat culture is that it tends to elevate certain role players beyond what they can replicate elsewhere. Avery Bradley had a similar effect in Boston years ago. Incredible in that system, then a shell of himself once he left. That's Vincent right now in LA. His time with the Lakers has been rough. The shooting hasn't been there, the impact's been minimal, and he hasn't looked like the same guy who was a key part of Miami's playoff runs. Last season, he played 72 games, which sounds durable until you look at the numbers. 40% from the field, 35% from three, averaging just 6 points a game. That's not moving the needle for a team like Boston, especially when you're giving up a high-level shooter in return. The only real argument for the deal is financial. Vincent's on an expiring contract, which could help Boston get under the tax line sooner. But from a pure basketball perspective, it's a downgrade. And that's why if the Celtics are actually considering moving Hauser, the timing matters. You don't cash him in during the offseason for a player whose value is at rock bottom. You wait until the trade deadline, when a contender desperate for shooting is willing to overpay. That's when Hauser's skill set becomes a premium commodity. That's when you get something meaningful in return, not just an expiring deal to help the books. Of course, in the middle of all this roster chatter, the conversation about Joe Mazzulla keeps coming back up. And man, Celtics fans are split on him. The extension, he just got surprised a lot of people. Not because they think he's a disaster, but because there's still a lot of uncertainty about what his ceiling is as a head coach. Some fans just can't get over the offensive stagnation late in games. The dribble, chuck a three style that sometimes takes over in crunch time. It's not entirely on him, but it's been a recurring theme. And when you've got the talent Boston's had, it's easy to expect more creativity. But here's the counterpoint. Who out there right now is a clear upgrade? Rick Carlisle? Sure, but he's locked in with Indiana and not going anywhere. Eric Spoelstra? Same story in Miami. After that, the list gets short. Tom Thibodeau isn't the answer. Mike Malone isn't leaving Denver. And even if he were, he's not known for developing young guys, which is what this upcoming Celtics season will be all about. Nick Nurse? Pass. The truth is, Mazzulla might not be perfect, but there's not some obvious savior coach waiting in the wings to step in and take over. And this season is going to be the most telling of his career so far. For the past 2 years, he's had a roster loaded with all-NBA talent, elite defenders, veteran leadership, the kind of group where the margin for error was huge. Now, he's got a mix of role players and proven youngsters and guys who'll be learning on the fly. If he can keep them competitive, keep them developing, and still squeeze out wins, that says a lot about his ability to adapt and actually coach, not just roll the ball out and let the stars do their thing. Look at the names who might be getting real minutes this year. Baylor Shireman, Hugo Gonzalez, Jordan Walsh, Amari Williams. You've got two-way contract guys bouncing between Boston and Maine. You've got Derek White stepping into an even bigger role. You've got Anthony Simons as a potential offensive spark. None of that's a given. It's on Mazzulla to figure out rotations, to keep the ball moving, to teach habits that will still matter when Tatum comes back. And for the first time in a long time, the Celtics aren't walking into a season penciled in as a top 2 seed in the East. The projections have them somewhere in that 6 to 9 range. Nice if you're talking about jokes, not so nice if you're used to home court advantage deep into the playoffs. The Knicks, Cavs, Magic, Hawks, Bucks, maybe even the Pistons are being slotted ahead of them in some projections. That's unfamiliar territory for a fan base that's grown accustomed to Eastern Conference Finals runs, which is why the expectations for Mazzulla are shifting. Nobody's saying he has to win a title with this roster, but people do want to see signs of growth. Better execution late in games. More variety in the offense. Development from the younger guys. Those things matter more than the final win total this year. The frustrating thing for some fans, though, is knowing that if the organization had handled certain off-court matters differently, they might still have Ime Udoka as head coach. That what-if still lingers. Udoka's a strong personality who got the best out of the roster in his lone season. But he also made decisions off the court that forced the team to move on. That's the reality. You can't rewrite it. So here we are, a new ownership group in control, a star player recovering from a major injury, a head coach under the microscope, and trade rumors swirling around key role players. It's a cocktail of uncertainty, and the only guarantee is that this season won't look like the last few. It's going to test the patience of the fan base, and it's going to test the vision of the people making the calls. Because in Boston, there's no such thing as a true rebuild. Even in a gap year, the pressure's there. The banners hanging in the rafters don't let you forget the standard. And when you're talking about a team that spent the last decade flirting with titles, any step back feels magnified. This ownership group might have bought themselves some grace with the Tatum injury, but it won't last forever. The clock's already ticking toward that summer of 2026, 2027, when all the excuses run out. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Whispers have been swirling through the NBA corridors about a groundbreaking move involving Jason Cunningham, whose arrival at the Boston Celtics might just reshape the franchise's future. The rumors suggest that Cunningham's contract, reportedly historic in its scope and value, could mark one of the most significant acquisitions in recent Celtics history. Sources close to the negotiations hint at a deal that not only reflects Cunningham's exceptional talent, but also the Celtics' determination to reassert their dominance in the league. Speculation is rife that this move is more than just a simple player transfer. It could be a strategic masterstroke by the Celtics management aiming to build a championship-contending roster around this rising star. Fans and analysts alike are buzzing with excitement, trying to decipher what this could mean for the team's dynamics and how Cunningham's skill set might integrate with the current Celtics lineup. The potential impact on team chemistry and the tactical adjustments the coaching staff might employ are hot topics in basketball circles. Moreover, the financial details rumored to be part of the contract have sparked debates on how this might influence salary cap strategies moving forward. This impending signing has the Celtics' faithful dreaming of glory, while keeping the rest of the NBA watching closely, waiting to see how this historic deal unfolds on and off the court. The buzz surrounding Cunningham's potential deal with the Boston Celtics continues to gain momentum as more insiders leak details that hint at a contract unprecedented in its terms and guarantees. This rumored agreement is said to not only break previous records within the franchise, but also set new standards across the league, highlighting how highly Cunningham is valued. Experts speculate that the Celtics are willing to commit substantial resources to secure Cunningham, who is viewed as a versatile player capable of influencing both ends of the floor. The strategic importance of acquiring such a talent at this moment in the Celtics' timeline cannot be overstated, especially as the team aims to overcome recent playoff disappointments. The narrative among NBA circles suggests that Cunningham's arrival might trigger a ripple effect, possibly affecting trades, player roles, and even draft strategies as the Celtics prepare for a long-term push toward championship contention. Conversations in the media are increasingly focusing on how this contract could redefine the Celtics' financial and competitive landscape, potentially challenging other franchises to reevaluate their approaches to player acquisitions. The Celtics front office appears poised to leverage this signing as a foundational move, signaling to fans and rivals alike that Boston is ready to make bold, transformative decisions. The anticipation builds daily, fueling endless speculation on how Cunningham's historic contract will ultimately shape the Celtics' trajectory. Amid the ongoing chatter about Jason Cunningham's imminent signing with the Boston Celtics, speculation is rife about the implications of what might be the most lucrative contract the franchise has ever offered. Sources hint that the deal could include innovative clauses, performance incentives, and flexibility that underline the Celtics' belief in Cunningham's long-term potential. This rumored contract not only suggests a financial commitment, but also an endorsement of Cunningham's ability to be a franchise cornerstone. Basketball pundits are analyzing how this deal might influence the Celtics' style of play, given Cunningham's unique skill set and versatility on the court. Discussions among insiders suggest that Cunningham's presence could allow the Celtics to experiment with new lineups and tactical schemes, potentially increasing their adaptability against a fiercely competitive Eastern Conference. The buzz is that the contract is more than just about numbers. It represents a shift in the Celtics' vision and ambition, signaling a new era focused on sustained excellence and innovation. Fans are eager to see how Cunningham's integration will affect team chemistry and performance, with many speculating that this could be the missing piece in the Celtics' championship puzzle. Meanwhile, the broader NBA community watches attentively, curious about how this deal might set a precedent for future player contracts and franchise strategies. Rumors have intensified around the Boston Celtics as Jason Cunningham's potential arrival, under a contract that insiders describe as historic, could usher in a transformative period for the team. The whispers suggest that the Celtics are not only investing heavily in Cunningham's abilities, but are also making a statement to the league about their intent to reclaim their status among basketball's elite. Analysts speculate that the contract could be structured to provide Cunningham with incentives tied to team and individual success, highlighting the Celtics' confidence in his impact on the game. This deal, rumored to be a game-changer, might also influence how the Celtics manage their roster in the coming seasons, possibly prompting a reevaluation of player roles and development priorities. Basketball circles are abuzz with theories about how Cunningham's arrival will affect the Celtics' competitiveness, especially against Eastern Conference powerhouses. The potential for Cunningham to become a key figure in the Celtics' quest for titles has sparked excitement and debate, with many wondering if this signing will mark a turning point for the franchise. Meanwhile, the rumored financial terms are fueling discussions on how the Celtics might balance this commitment with future acquisitions. The unfolding saga has captivated fans, media, and rivals, all eager to see if this historic contract will translate into on-court success. The ongoing rumor mill regarding Jason Cunningham's historic contract with the Boston Celtics continues to stir passionate conversations across the basketball world. Insiders suggest that the agreement, rumored to break new ground in terms of contract length, value, and conditions, represents a bold gamble by the Celtics on Cunningham's potential to become a franchise-defining player. The Celtics appear ready to invest heavily, not just financially, but also strategically, hoping Cunningham's versatility and skills will elevate the team's performance across multiple facets of the game. Experts are debating how this landmark contract could affect the Celtics' future moves, from draft picks to trades and salary cap management, signaling a comprehensive plan to build a contender around Cunningham. Speculation abounds about how the Celtics coaching staff might adapt their approach to maximize Cunningham's strengths, potentially redefining the team's playing style and identity. The excitement and uncertainty surrounding this signing have created a vibrant buzz, with fans and analysts projecting how this move might influence the Celtics' championship aspirations over the next several seasons. As the Celtics prepare to unveil this historic deal, the basketball community remains on edge, anticipating the ripple effects this signing could have throughout the NBA landscape. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.